Okay, this is totally true. If you go to, let's say, in Arizona, where Joe is right now, and there's an American Indian tribe there that has 80% of them have diabetes. And if you go to other areas of the world, like in Denmark, where you only have 20% of people with diabetes, and if they eat the same amount of carbohydrates, what the heck? Why do some people are genetically predisposed to getting diabetes and other people not? Well, there's good reasons for that, and you can look at it in terms of over a long period of time. The people that have really good storage, where they store all the sugar and bring in all the fat and everything, and they gain weight really easily, those kind of people are going to live through starvation periods for a lot longer than people who aren't deficient, who don't hold on to fat easily. So because of that, there are genetic reasons for that.
Hello guys, welcome to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. We have Dr. Scott Saunders and Joe Barton with us today. And they both have tropical looking, well, maybe not tropical in Dr. Saunders' background, but definitely water. And maybe not tropical for Joe, but warm. It looks very warm and lovely there. So I'm jealous. They left me here in South Dakota. And it's rainy and cold, a little windy, just another day. But I'm excited to be with these guys. I was gone last week. We were on vacation in Florida, and it was wonderful. Just my husband and I and our two kids, and it was just a really good time to get away. And then the day we got back, they lifted the mask mandates on the flights. I was like, we missed it by a day. What are the chances? But we had a really good trip, and but we miss you guys. And I heard the webinar was amazing last week. So it's always fun to have Cheryl on, and Cheryl and Dr. Saunders have known each other for a really long time. Cheryl's kind of one of the OG Barton Publishing team members. She's been around for, what do you suppose, how many years, Joe?
At least 11, maybe 12. No, it's got to be more.
I bet more than that.
Started 13. We started Home Cures, I think, January 1st, 2009, and she did that. So she's been here 14 years. Wow, time flies.
Wow.
So
she is awesome. She's another one who practices what she preaches, and she's kind of an amazing cook, and she likes to grow some of her own food and do all the fun things. So she's always fun, and we've gotten to travel with her and her husband and Dr. Saunders' family, and so it's kind of like one big family when you're watching these webinars. We all really actually do know and like each other. So
most of the time.
most of the time, but there are a few words. But anyway, we're excited that you guys are here. We are talking about type 2 today, and we get a lot of questions about type 2. And so the beautiful part of this webinar is that you can type in your questions into the chat. We will do our best. Actually, put them in the Q&A. It's a little bit easier for us to manage, but a really good place for you to ask those questions. And we'll do our best to answer as many as possible. Those of you on Facebook, you can put those in the comments as well. Make sure you go to bartonwebinar.com. You'll find a link to our YouTube channel where you can watch all of our past episodes. There are even some amazing testimonials there that I think you guys will really, really appreciate. I've got to interview quite a few of you, 10 of you, I suppose, and just hear your stories and how the Diabetes Solution Kit is working for you, etc. And if you are interested in sharing your story with us, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to email me, leslie@bartonpublishing.com. I would love to set up a time. We can just do a little Zoom chat like this, and I can get to know you a little bit and hear your story. So that's all for me. I'm going to hand it over to probably these guys. We're going to do just a little bit of a disclaimer. We always like to do that before we get started, because we are talking about some medical type things. So we'll let Dr. Saunders do a disclaimer for us.
Having to have a disclaimer is kind of a funny thing when you think about it, that we should have to tell you. But this is actually a good idea, and that is, whatever we talk about for general information that applies to people generally, or sometimes for specific problems, but that may not apply to you. So it's really important that you take the information and see if it applies to you before you go off and do things that could hurt you. For example, we're talking about type 2. And if people with type 1 take the same advice, it wouldn't fit very well. And sometimes is the wrong thing to do. So just make sure you apply whatever information you hear on this to yourself properly.
All right, good stuff. And we're already getting some questions in here, so this is great. Again, go ahead and use that Q&A. Dr. Saunders, let's just get started. Before we answer some of these questions, can you give us just a quick overview again of the difference between type 1 and type 2? We're finding that a lot of people aren't sure which they have. They just know they have diabetes.
Okay, it's really simple, actually. And when somebody gives you a diagnosis of diabetes, that person, the doctor or whoever, should tell you exactly what it is, because type 1 is when your pancreas doesn't make enough insulin. And if you don't have insulin, then you can't get sugar and protein, by the way, into your cells. So you have this cell that's completely closed off and blocked off. It's got a membrane around it that prevents any sugar from getting into it. And so in order for the sugar to get in, it has to have a port that's opened up by insulin. And if you don't have insulin, you can't open the port. The port's there, but it just can't be opened unless there's insulin to open it up. So if there's no insulin, then that sugar just doesn't go in. So you eat sugar, but it can't go into your cells. So what happens? It goes up. And then you eat more. And then what happens? It goes up. And then you eat more and it goes up. Why? Because it's not going into your cells. Meanwhile, your cells are starving. They're starving. They have no energy. They have no sugar. They have no protein. They're just literally cremating and dying because there's no way to get that energy into the cells. So you have this issue of type 1 is a starvation mode that these cells go into because there's no insulin. So what's type 2? And why do they have the same name? Okay, so type 2 is you have this same cell, and there's a whole bunch of insulin around. There's just all this insulin converging on this one poor little cell, and all the ports are open, and all the sugar's going into the cell, and the cell's filling up and filling up and filling up, more and more sugar, until it gets bloated and says, forget it. We can't take any more. We're getting toxic on sugar, and it blocks all the insulin receptors. Block. So now you have this cell. What the insulin receptors, the insulin's there, but the receptors don't work because they're blocked from the inside. So now you eat sugar, and what happens? The sugar in your blood goes up, but it can't get into your cells. Your blood sugar goes up. It goes up more. The more you eat, the more it goes up. And so that's type 2. So if you're looking just at blood sugar, you give it the same name. Oh, look, your blood sugar's up. That means you have diabetes. But if you don't test, you don't know what the insulin is. So you don't know if it's type 1 or type 2. So a lot of people are told, oh, you have diabetes just because the blood sugar's elevated, but they don't say anything about whether it's type 1 or type 2 because nobody tests. Well, not very many people test. I had an endocrinologist in town who told me, oh, yeah, I never test for insulin. I find I don't even need that. We'll just give them more insulin if their blood sugar's up. But if you have excessive insulin and your cells are bloated with sugar, then more insulin is going to do what? Nothing. So I've had people on 100 or 200 units of insulin and taking drugs that increase the pancreas output of insulin, and nothing's working. And they wonder why, because they have type 2. And insulin is not the right treatment for type 2. Insulin is the right treatment for type 1. And that's why you have that discrepancy and why it's so important that you know which type you have. And so those tests need to be done. You need insulin, yeah, you need hemoglobin A1c, you need a C peptide, that's C dash peptide. And that is sort of the long acting. That's what's left over after the insulin is made and kind of tells you how much generally your pancreas is putting out. At least if you have those three, and then of course the glucose level, just those 4 tests will tell you easily if you have type 1 or type 2.
Okay, such good information. We do have a question from Kathy. She says, I can't keep my blood sugar down. So now that you know if you have type 1 or type 2, let's say you have type 2, what do you do now? What do you recommend?
Okay, so if you have type 2 and you can't keep your blood sugar down, then what you have is these cells are so full of sugar that they're blocked from the inside so that you can't get sugar into your cells, so your blood sugar is not going to go down because the sugar is not getting into the cells the way it's supposed to. So there's 2 things that need to be done. One is don't eat sugar. If you don't eat sugar, then you're not going to add to that problem of all this excessive sugar around. And then number 2, exercise. As you're exercising, you're using up all that excess sugar that's in the cells. And as you use up all it's called glycogen, the way that the insulin is, the blood sugar, the sugar in the cell is stored as something called glycogen, which is kind of like a starch. And then you use up that extra sugar, and then the cells, they shrink down, they go, oh, we need some more sugar. So they unblock all the insulin receptors, and then your insulin just starts working. So that's where we have our phase 1 of our diabetes solution kit. This is the print version. You can get it online. You don't have to get the print version, but this what this does is it phases how you phase in your getting your blood sugar down. So the answer to your question, how do I get my blood sugar down? Number 1, go on phase 1 of the program. Phase 1 of the program is you are eating 20-gram carbohydrates, so not enough for your body to live on, so that your cells have to start using up the sugar, that excess sugar that they have. And then number 2, you're exercising to, again, use up that sugar.
I was on mute. Okay, good stuff here. I'm gonna just ask a few more questions because we have a lot of them coming in, and we can talk more about this type 2. So, or what we need to do when we find out we have type 2. Roy says that I find from time to time that I can't remember things like day-to-day items from the news. I'm trying to figure out what it is that impacts my memory and focus. I have a bad feeling that it's diabetes related. And so the question is, could diabetes and blood sugar affect our brain?
Oh, wow. That is so important. Yes, absolutely. In fact, we did a whole webinar on that where we discussed why diabetes affects the brain and the memory specifically. So there are certain areas of your brain that are especially sensitive to low glucose. And here's the weird thing is that while your blood sugar is high, the blood sugar can't get across the blood-brain barrier to get into your brain. So what's happening is your brain, just like your cells in type 1, your brain is starving for sugar, and there's less and less sugar to go in there because you make less glucose transport proteins to pull the sugar into your brain. And that is, it's a terrible problem. And it's the number 1 cause of dementia in the United States right now is type 2. So it's not a minor problem. It's a big thing. And yes, it absolutely affects your memory. And the best way to fix that problem is when you're on phase 1 of the diabetes solution kit. The phase 1 of the program is talking about how you decrease the amount of sugar that you're taking in, carbohydrates generally that you're taking in, so that you don't raise your blood sugar. What that does is then allows the blood sugar to get down, to allow you to become sensitive to insulin again, so that you can get the blood sugar across the blood-brain barrier back into your brain. That's really important.
Okay. Aileen is asking, are these cells that are stuffed with sugar blood cells or tissue cells or both?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's pretty much everything except blood cells, because red blood cells are non-metabolic, and they pretty much just are kind of like bags of hemoglobin that carry oxygen around. So it's not like the red blood cells, but some of the white blood cells would be included in that. Mostly they're liver cells, muscle cells, but interestingly, not fat cells. Fat cells don't become resistant to insulin. You just make more fat, more fat, more fat, more fat. And that's why one of the problems with not knowing if you have type 1 or type 2, if you have type 2 and your insulin level's really high, you're going to still make a lot of fat. And what does that do? Well, that gives you leptin, it makes you more resistant to insulin, and it compounds the problem. So what you want to do is be able to burn fat for energy, but this high insulin blocks you from using fat for energy. So yes, they're liver cells, muscle cells, especially, but other kinds of cells also, except for fat cells. Okay. Good question.
Message here from Jerry. Started the program 9 days ago on phase 1. Blood sugar is down and averaging under 100 already. That's amazing.
Wow.
But 20 grams of carbs is hard. Yes, I hear you. Jerry's concerned about calories, not getting 1,000 and only whole clean foods. Suggestions, also feeling fatigued when exerting myself.
Okay. All of those things are good. Everything you said is good. And you can't fix good. It's just you're doing the right thing. And there's nothing there to fix. Yes, you're feeling fatigued, but that's an important thing. And the reason after you start using up all the sugar and your muscles become fatigued, they open up the ports for insulin to allow insulin to get in. So your blood sugar drops down quickly. And that's what you've seen. That's what's happening. So now you have to build the mitochondria in your muscles so that you don't get fatigued, so that you can make energy again. So what you're doing is exactly the right thing. And that should continue, because if you're under 100, between 70 and 90 is optimal. Or if you're in Canada, between 4 and 5 is where you want to be for a significant period of time, a couple of weeks, before you start in phase 2 of the program. So keep exercising, keep eating the hard part, the low carb, the 20 grams. I know it's hard. I've done it.
Okay. Let's see here. You know, I actually had a question. Somebody had emailed me wondering what kind of cinnamon we used in Cinechroma, and I should know this, but I can't remember. Joe, do you know which one it was?
Unmute. I believe it's Cassia. Yeah, I know they both start with a C, Ceylon and Cassia, but I'm pretty sure it's Cassia.
Okay. All right. Good to know. And I'm thinking of that because someone just said I had some cinnamon tablets and took some, and my blood sugar quickly lowered for the next few days. How soon can cinnamon take effect? Second question, by lowering the blood sugar with cinnamon, does it affect the A1c?
Two good questions. Yeah, absolutely. So it takes effect immediately. And that's why when we recommend the Cinechroma, that we recommend you take it in the morning because it will lower blood sugar. And then if you're doing the 6-10 reset, you're not eating at night. So you don't want to take cinnamon at night and potentially lower your blood sugar too much, but it doesn't really lower it too much. But anyway, yes, it'll come down to normal. So then the second part of the question is can the hemoglobin A1c drop down? Well, yeah, the hemoglobin A1c is an average blood sugar over about 3 months. So it's the amount of sugar attached to red blood cells. And red blood cells last for about 3 months. So it's sort of gives you an average blood sugar. And that's what the hemoglobin A1c is. So if your blood sugar is going down, then your average is going to be less. Your hemoglobin A1c should drop down.
Okay. Let's see. 2 questions here. Okay, so I read from the book that diabetes is a problem of too much insulin. How is that? I thought it was the other way around.
Yeah, type 1 diabetes, remember, is not enough insulin. And that's really important to know that you have type 1, which means you don't have enough insulin, which means you need insulin. And how you get that insulin? Well, almost always it requires injection. Now they have a nose spray, and they have other ways of doing it. But you need insulin. Whereas if you have type 2 and you have too much insulin, then adding more insulin in is not a good idea. That just makes you more insulin resistant. So that's why you need to know whether you have type 1 or type 2.
And another good question here, how does the method of cooking affect blood glucose? And what would be the best method to cook poultry and seafood?
Well, the way you like it. Okay, so as far as glucose goes, if you're cooking things, the more things are cooked, the more starchy they are, the more glucose is available, the more you break down the fiber. It doesn't make a big difference though, like say squash. If you're eating a raw squash, you're getting about the same amount. It's a little less if it's raw than if it's cooked. As you cook things, you break down the sugars into starches. So things like carrots, for example, if you're eating a raw carrot, you're getting a little less net carbs in the raw carrot than in the cooked carrots. It doesn't make a big difference though. So if that's what you mean by cooking, yes, you do get a little more glucose from the cooked foods. And then as far as the meat goes, I don't know, I look at things that if you're using really high heat, like a barbecue, for example, where it burns, then you're making advanced glycation end products, especially if you're putting sauces on it that have sugars in them. And there are some carcinogens that are made from high heat. So in a sense, there's the restaurants use something that cooks at like 160 degrees or something. It's a really low temperature for very slow cooking. So things like the meat is really tender. And then they just have to throw it on a grill for a minute on one side, a minute on the other side to brown it. And I think it's a great way of doing it.
Okay, Kathy had said that she's having a hard time getting her numbers down. For example, she had 2 eggs and 1 slice of bacon, and it went from 70 to 130. And then she also says she walks at least 10,000 steps a day. And how long does she need to stay under 100? So a few different questions in there. Why would it be jumping from 70 to 130 after 2 eggs and bacon?
Okay, great questions. Okay, so first of all, postprandial or after eating with 2 eggs and bacon, that there's a lot of protein and fat. The fat makes you resistant to insulin. The protein actually turns on your ability to make what's called gluconeogenesis. You make new sugar. And so a lot of people, their blood sugar will go up significantly from a high protein meal, especially if there's fat in it. That could be one issue, but 130 is not that much postprandial, and that's pretty good, especially if you're in the 70s before you eat. That's a decent. That's okay. It means you're a little resistant to insulin, and maybe the fat that's in there that's doing that. And then what was the other part of the question?
Just wondering how long she needs to stay under 100.
Under 100. Okay, so it's not that you need to stay under 100 all the time. It's your fasting number should be under 100 for a couple of weeks. So, and the fasting means like before eating breakfast in the morning. You said yours was 70. Well, that's pretty good. If it's 70 for a couple of weeks, you can start on phase 2 pretty well.
Okay, let's see. Krish, welcome back, Krish. Insulin resistance is the underlying cause factor for type 2 diabetes. It seems that insulin resistance may be caused by altered genes, and which are referred to as diabetogenic genes. If this is totally true, why this area has not advanced employing the current available technology? Never thought about that.
Okay, good questions. Okay, this is totally true. If you go to, let's say, in Arizona, where Joe is right now, and there's an Indian or American Indian tribe there that has 80% of them have diabetes. And if you go to other areas of the world, like in Denmark, where you only have 20% of people with diabetes, and if they eat the same amount of carbohydrates, what the heck? Why do some people are genetically predisposed to getting diabetes and other people not? Well, there's good reasons for that, and you can look at it in terms of over a long period of time. The people that have really good storage, where they store all the sugar and bring in all the fat and everything, and they gain weight really easily, those kind of people are going to live through starvation periods for a lot longer than people who aren't efficient, who don't hold on to fat easily. So because of that, and there are genetic reasons for that. So yes, there are diabetes genes. So the next part of the question is, why do we do something about it? Well, it's not that simple, because the other part of the problem is the what we call epigenetics. And epigenetics is what you're doing. It's your lifestyle. It's the things you're eating. It's the amount of exercise you get. It's how those genes are being used, because what happens is not just the presence of the gene, but whether it's turned on or turned off. And this area is blowing up so big. There's so much involved in this that they're doing research on if the parents eat certain things, then the child will have a propensity to diabetes. And if the parents don't eat a lot of carbs, like a mother during pregnancy eating a lot of carbs, then the child will have less, or the children are less likely to get diabetes. And that's been shown in multiple animal studies, where turning on the gene, a parent can turn on the gene and give the child something, but then the child can turn off that gene. So it's not like it's always on or always there. So the epigenetics is more important. So what we're working with when we give the diabetes solution kit, what we're doing here is what we call epigenetics, and that is how well you're using the genes that you have. So if you have type 2, you probably have a genetic predisposition anyway. And so if you have that genetic predisposition, what do you do about it? Well, this is one way of doing it. It's not the only way. Some people have genes to the point where they can't eat fat, and they have to do a very high fiber, high carb diet and cut out all the fat. a different animal, and it's not as common. So that's why we use this method.
Good information. Okay, we have a message. This might kind of be for Joe as well. This is from our friends Barbie and Vila. We received an email from Cheryl talking about Dr. Saunders' Diabetes Detox Masterclass. We are only on our 6th week of the Diabetes Solution Kit, still in phase 1 and slightly phase 2. Our blood glucose levels are not consistently below 100 yet. Our levels have ranged between 130 to 100 in the morning and 130 to 90 in the evening. However, not below 100 consistently. And as a reminder, Barbie started with blood glucose levels close to 300, and I was close to 200. Barbie has lost 18 pounds, and I've lost 32 pounds. They're wondering when they should start the master class. And I know, Joe, you probably know a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you guys recorded a video together. I watched half of it yesterday, and it was awesome. So that was great. Nice work. And I'm hearing an echo, so it sounds a little weird.
I know. I can't figure it out. I'll mute myself.
Okay. I don't hear it.
Testing 1, 2.
Dr. Saunders doesn't hear it, so it's him.
Yeah.
Can you just mute yourself for 1 second, Dr. Saunders?
I will mute. How do I do that?
I'll mute you. I'll mute you. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Testing 1, 2. Okay. Yep. It was Dr. Saunders. Guilty. Okay. So regarding the masterclass, so that is basically the video series that Dr. Saunders recorded. And you can start at any time. And it's also it's really just another way that we market our program. The masterclass includes those videos when you buy the program. And if anybody watching this that's already purchased the Diabetes Solution Kit wants a copy of those masterclass videos, just send an email to Leslie at bartonpublishing.com, and she can get you connected with that. But so as far as when to start that, really, it's you guys have already started it, and you're welcome to watch those videos at any time. And they're really just supplemental to the program. So
perfect. And in fact, I believe I can add them to a private group. Is that right? On Facebook? Or no? I'm
not sure about that.
Okay, I'll figure it out.
There's like a WordPress login membership area or something.
Okay.
Those,
yep.
So
yeah, those videos are posted there, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. I'm going to unmute Dr. Saunders, or maybe he is.
Yep.
Back. Oh, he's back. Perfect. Okay. Okay, here's a good question. It says, I have very dry skin and feet. I take cod liver oil daily. What can I do or take to help the condition? And my question would be, could this be type 2 related?
In a sense, yes. A lot of times, if it's especially in the feet, it may be type 2 related, and that is not getting enough circulation to the feet. What happens is the skin gets really dry and thick, and that's a reaction to not having enough blood flow and not getting enough oxygen to the skin cells. So they become, it's called keratosis. And some people actually, they use a pumice stone to rub that stuff out. But if that's the case, then we do have a way of improving the circulation. Number one, if you're on phase 1 of the program, then getting your blood sugar down is a really good idea, because that improves circulation by itself. And then number 2, the Nervala supplement has alpha lipoic acid and benfotiamine. Benfotiamine improves the microcirculation, so you get good blood flow through the small vessels. And alpha lipoic acid decreases inflammation and helps the nerves to function better. So you get better nervous system function and blood flow with that too. So number 1, get your blood sugar down to normal. And then number 2, try Nervala. That should help and make a big difference.
Christian asked if cinnamon could help reduce body weight.
Cinnamon. Okay. Not by itself. Okay, because cinnamon makes you more sensitive to insulin, and so you can use it in your cells more. But as far as like losing body weight or taking fat off of your body, it's not like, it doesn't work in the same way that like metformin kind of forces your body to use fat instead of carbs or sugar for energy. So people often lose weight with metformin, but cinnamon doesn't have that exact same effect. Berberine tends to have more of that effect, but no, not cinnamon.
One question that I get asked often is, can I stop taking my metformin or whatever I'm taking and just take Cinachroma? Will that replace my metformin?
Very often, yes. Very often, you don't. The idea is to get off of metformin and any other diabetes medications eventually. And if all you're taking is metformin, then the Cinachroma, while it doesn't do exactly what the metformin does, it will lower your blood sugar as much as the metformin will, approximately.
Okay. Jerry had asked, is a blood sugar of 70 too low?
A blood sugar of 70. No, 70 is great. In fact, 70 is normal. If you can get down to 70, that's excellent. Between 70 and 90 is kind of that optimum range where you get the right amount of sugar without too much. So having that amount of glucose is perfect. When you get into the 60s, then that starts to be a little low. But even there, people can get used to being in the 60s and they increase their glucose transport proteins. And so they're more sensitive to insulin if their blood sugars are in the lower range. When you get into the 40s or 30s, then that's definitely too low, because then your brain and heart and kidneys aren't going to be getting enough sugar. So, yeah.
Okay. Julie said in the diabetes solution kit refers to caffeine causing blood sugar to rise. Is all caffeine, is that all caffeine sources?
Well, maybe, but not in everyone. In fact, caffeine isn't a cause of or even a risk factor for getting diabetes by itself. It's just that many people have a lot of stress in their lives, and the stress hormones like cortisol cause insulin resistance, and caffeine tells your adrenals to make more cortisol. And so fine, that wakes you up. That's wonderful. You have this cortisol, adrenaline, and you get more awake, but it can also contribute to insulin resistance.
Can you take cinnamon and berberine at the same time, or should you space them out?
Oh, you can take them at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's see. Good question here from Deborah. How long does it take to work the excess amount of sugar out of your body?
Oh, that's highly variable. And that depends on your metabolism. It depends on how much exercise you do and how you exercise. There are so many factors involved in how fast those cells use up their blood sugar. And sometimes, like, the muscle cells will store glycogen, and so you'll use that at first, and then the liver cells will still be bloated with glycogen and sugar. So that may take a while. So I've had people like with diabetes. I remember one guy fasted for 9 days before his blood sugar came down to normal. So, that's how long it took him to get sensitive to insulin again. And he was doing a water fast. So it's not always a simple thing. Whereas we've talked to people have come on here and said, yeah, I've been doing this for a week. And first, after 2 days, it came down to normal and we were good. And that's still eating and eating, 20 grams carbohydrates. So that's the highly variable part of this is we don't know.
Let's quick discuss the carbs. Now, in phase 1 of the diabetes solution kit, you can have 20 net carbs. Can you tell us what that means exactly?
Okay, it means that that net carbs is you take the fiber out. Why? Because the fiber is not made into glucose. It's not sugar, and we don't care about that. And we want you to have a lot of fiber. So we have a lot of free foods that say, you can eat all the broccoli you want, you can eat all the celery you want, you can have all the spinach you want, and they're relatively high in fiber. And we don't want to include those in your 20 grams. We just want you to have 20 grams of energy carbs. So the energy carbs are the non-fiber carbs. So that's why that's important. Because if you start counting those, then you're not going to get your 40 grams of fiber a day, and you're going to, anyway, it won't be enough.
Okay. Deborah is asking how you might treat thyroid issues in your practice. I developed hypothyroidism after I had my son.
Okay. So thyroid issues are treated depending on what the cause is. There's a lot of things that can underlie what's low thyroid. So for example, after a pregnancy, sometimes it's something as simple as iodine deficiency. Most people in the United States are deficient in iodine. It's kind of hard to get because it's not in the soils. So unless you're eating seaweed salads or or those seaweed chips or something like that, or taking kelp, you probably aren't getting any iodine at all. And so iodine deficiency was noted even recently in a study in high school girls in the Midwest. They tested all these girls and found that most of them already had goiter before they were even out of high school. Goiter is an enlarged thyroid from a lack of iodine. So iodine deficiency is common. So that's one thing. So adding iodine. Another one that is actually fairly common is selenium. We have selenium in synachroma because it also makes glutathione, but it's also important for the thyroid. And selenium is not found in our soils. And so the only real source of selenium is Brazil nuts, which have a significant amount. And that's only because they're grown in an area of Brazil, Western Brazil or Eastern Brazil, that has a lot of selenium in the soil. It's a volcanic soil that has a lot of selenium. So, and so the nuts are going to have selenium just because they're grown in that soil. If the Brazil nuts are grown somewhere else, they may not have selenium in them at all. So supplementing with that would be a good idea if your thyroid is low. And then other things might be other hormones. So if you have adrenal problems, low adrenals, then that will affect your thyroid as well. So there's a lot of things that can affect thyroid. And so depending on what the issue is, I usually test for the different problems. Depending on what the issue is, that's how I treat it.
Okay. Let's see. Jerry says raw veggies and more of them lately has me feeling a bit of GERD. Any suggestions on easing this feeling?
Okay. So the question is, why? Is there some kind of reaction to the raw veggies? Because usually raw veggies go through the stomach pretty easily. And so what would cause the acid reflux would be maybe some kind of reaction that you're having. Another thing is if you're eating at night, munching on raw veggies before bed or something, you can tend to get more GERD. Yeah, I don't know, because normally what we would do is take out the fat, because that tends to keep the stomach bloated and cause more acid, or a high protein causes more acid to be produced. But raw veggies don't have a lot of protein. They don't have a lot of fat. So you wouldn't expect that to happen. So maybe you're having a reaction. So maybe you should try each of the different ones and just alone. Just try, okay, do I get this with carrots? Do I get this with celery? Do I get this with raw broccoli? And then try each one of them separately to see if it's a specific one that's causing it.
We had another comment about vegetables. Someone said, I started eating more raw vegetables and spinach smoothies. I recently was diagnosed with diverticulitis, and this is bad for that. What I researched was that I need to cook my veggies more, but if cooking vegetables more is good for diverticulitis, but not for type 2, what foods are good for both?
Okay, that is very interesting. So this myth of diverticulitis has been going around for many years, decades, that you should have a low residue diet. And so remember, everything we were taught in medical school is the opposite. So just like we were talking about, type 2, you should give insulin for type 2 diabetes. No, the opposite is true. And the diverticulitis, it's the same thing. So people who were trained 20 or 30 years ago would have been told in medical school that you should have a low residue diet, cook your vegetables really well so there's not a lot of fiber, avoid seeds, avoid nuts, avoid things with seeds in them like strawberries with the little seeds and all that kind of stuff. That's what we were told, because I went to medical school 30 years ago. Well, since then, the research has come out that's actually, that's bad advice. That really the best advice for diverticulitis is as much fiber as you can get will actually relieve both diverticulitis and diverticulosis and hemorrhoids, all of those issues that you were told that you should eat a low residue diet. You actually are completely reversed or cured with a high residue diet, so high fiber. So the best thing you can do for both diabetes and diverticulitis is a high fiber diet. In fact, the more fiber, the better, is what the research shows.
Interesting. I did not know that. Okay. Let's see. Vila says, I think Joe's drinking his fiber right now. There might be a new product some of you maybe have seen called Fiber Greens. It is up at Barton Nutrition, I believe. You can get there from bartonwebinar.com as well. But Joe, you better give us a little blurb on it.
I'm enjoying my fiber greens this morning here in Arizona. And if you go to bartonnutrition.com, it is now at the top of the page. You'll see it there. And you might as well save an extra 25% and use the webinar coupon code, which is webinar25. So very tasty.
It is really good. We like it a lot.
Yes.
I'm going to post that coupon code here. I can type and talk at the same time. I don't think I can. I better move on here. Hold on. Let's see. This is a really good question from Vila. He says, even though my blood sugar levels and weight have come down significantly, I'm still running high blood pressure, average between 165 to 95. What can I do to change that?
Okay. Thank you. That's an excellent question. So our expectation is that when your insulin comes down, your blood sugar comes down, your blood pressure should come down with it. And so if not, then it's important to know why that's happening. Why is your blood sugar or blood pressure still elevated? Sometimes it's a hormone imbalance, like with the adrenal glands can do that. Sometimes it's a hormone or problem with the kidneys. So getting your kidneys checked and your renin and angiotensin levels checked. And then looking for aldosterone or other kinds of hormonal abnormalities. So finding out why your blood sugar or blood pressure is still elevated is a good idea. One of the things you should do since you've been dealing with diabetes is check the insulin levels, because if the insulin levels are still high, then that'll tend to make the blood pressure level also higher. So even though your blood sugar is normal, sometimes that comes at a cost of having higher blood insulin levels. And so what you want is your blood sugar to be low and your insulin to be low, and then the blood pressure should come down to normal. If not, then further testing is going to be necessary to find out why your blood pressure is still high.
All right. Let's see. Sherry says that she was recently diagnosed with an A1c of 6 and cholesterol 133. Always had issues with being dehydrated because I don't like water. A month before the blood work, I had a steroid injection. She's very confused. Any advice?
Okay. The cholesterol 133, that's not bad. I don't know. So but what's the confusion?
A1c of 6, and maybe wondering if there is any relation to the steroid injection.
Oh, steroid injection. Okay. Yeah. So if the hemoglobin A1c has gone up to 6 after a steroid injection, that could be after you've had steroids. That remember, steroids are just cortisol, right? And cortisol is the stress hormone, and that makes you resistant to insulin. Very resistant to insulin. Some people more than others. So if there's a steroid injection that, or more than one, or whatever that's causing that, yeah, the simple thing to do is just retest later and find out if your hemoglobin A1c has come down to normal. 6 is a pre-diabetes range. It's not actually diabetic, but that could affect it. Absolutely.
All right. James says, does apple cider vinegar and or lemon juice help lower blood sugar for type 2 diabetes? And if so, how much would you suggest taking each day?
Okay. So both of those are acids. The lemon juice is primarily citric acid, and the ACV is primarily acetic acid. And these are used by the body. They go into the the energy systems in your body and make energy to or assist in that process of making energy. But they don't actually lower your blood glucose. They don't make you more sensitive to insulin or lower your hemoglobin A1c. So it's not something that you should use as this is going to lower my blood sugar, and how much should I take to get my blood sugar down? Because they're used in the energy system, but it's not something that's going to improve blood sugar.
Okay. See, Anonymous says, hello, I have a friend who just found out that he was diabetic. His A1c is at 11. He doesn't want to take any medications like metformin, and I told him to take cinnamon, and I gave him the diabetic solution book, so the diabetes solution kit. What else can he do or take that is natural?
Okay, so with the hemoglobin A1c, one of the things to put out of your mind is I'm going to take a pill, and the pill is going to lower my blood sugar and improve my hemoglobin A1c. That's not the purpose of the pill. The purpose of the pill, like Synachroma, is to assist you to make sure that you can use sugar normally, is really what it's about. We put chromium in there. Chromium is a common deficiency that people have, especially if they have type 1 diabetes or type 2 diabetes, because the chromium is needed to have sensitivity or to use sugar properly. So if you don't have enough chromium, you could have diabetes just from a deficiency of chromium. Selenium is also necessary for good use of sugar as well as making glutathione to lower inflammation. The cinnamon is an herb that helps to make you more sensitive to insulin. So vanadium is also important for using sugar properly in the body. These are common deficiencies. So the purpose for the pill is not to fix your problem. It's to help your body to function normally so that you can fix your problem, so that you're not so frustrated all the time. Like people are going, yeah, I'm doing everything right and nothing's working. Well, you know what? If you're chromium deficient, then it's not going to work, even if you do everything right. So the purpose for the pill is not like you're going to get a normal hemoglobin A1c from 11 down to 5, right? That's not going to happen. So you did the right thing. You gave him the diabetes solution kit, and following phase 1, he'll get his hemoglobin A1c down to normal, and he won't need any drugs or medications. And then, yeah, the cinnamon's fine. Cinachroma, the advantage of it is it has those other ones, the chromium, vanadium, selenium, vitamin D, which help you to use your sugar properly. So that could help. So you have those other things that you can tell them to take too.
Awesome. We have a note here from our friend Bill Davenport. And Bill, I sent you an email just so that you know. He said, I have found a product to satisfy my desire for cereal. Maybe we shouldn't even share this, but we're going to do it anyway. Okay. Even though I have reversed my type 2 diabetes, I remain on phase 1 until all of my stubborn belly fat is gone. The product that he found is called Catalina Crunch. It is sugar-free and grain-free, and a half a cup of it has 14 grams of carbs and 9 grams of fiber for a total of 5 net carbs. So that's how that works in figuring out carbs. It also has 11 grams of protein. They make low sugar, keto-friendly snack mixes and sandwich cookies like Oreos. Check them out, he said.
Okay, I've seen that. And I haven't tried it yet, but I did see it in the store, Catalina Crunch. It's mostly they use nuts instead of grains. So they use almonds, walnuts, pecans, and I imagine it's probably pretty good.
Interesting. Okay, I might have to Google that. I bet Joe is right now.
I am. Catalina flour, pea protein, potato fiber, non-GMO corn fiber, chicory root fiber, guar gum, tapioca flour, sunflower oil, a few other things. So, and a little bit of stevia and monk fruit. That's in the Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Oh.
Catalina Crunch. So yeah, 5 net grams of carbs per half cup. So not bad. That's doable for people with cereal addictions like me and Bill.
That's funny. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. That's so good. Okay. Message here from Roy. I bought my doctor a copy of the diabetes solution kit. First of all, that's awesome. Good for you, Roy. And because he wanted to know what he was doing. I asked him if I could switch from metformin to berberine, 500 milligrams per meal, 1,500 milligrams total for the day. He said yes, and he wants to test in a month. I like your doctor, Roy. That's awesome. Besides my phenochroma, what else should I be thinking of taking to keep things going in the right direction? Following the plan as best as I can, being on the road a lot.
Oh, it's hard when you're eating on the road a lot. Yeah, that's difficult. But staying on the program is the best thing you could do, and eating as much fiber as you can. So if you're on the road, you can have all the free foods with you. You can have your celery sticks to munch on if you have the munchies while you're driving. I often use crunchy things to keep me awake, and so things like carrots and celery sticks, stuff like that. And so that you can still be on the program and have that kind of stuff when you're on the road. And then as far as taking, again, the same kind of thing. Don't look at the supplements as this is the answer to your problem. It's really cleansing all the sugar out of your cells that that does the work. And the supplement is an assistive, just in case you're deficient in these things that are common deficiencies. They should help you. So Synachroma would be a great, that's why we formulated it that way. It's right. These are the things that people are deficient in. And then we add the cinnamon in there.
Today's Fixed Blood Sugar webinar is sponsored by Synachroma, our best-selling advanced blood sugar support formula. Now, thousands of people around the world are taking Synachroma every day as part of their program to fix their blood sugar using natural ingredients that simply work. Now, Dr. Saunders formulated Synachroma to meet key nutritional deficiencies that most people have unknowingly suffered from for far too long. With Synachroma, you get a blend of 6 key ingredients. The perfect combination of chromium, vitamin D3, and vitamin K2, which it's important to take those two together, selenium, vanadium, and our 10-to-1 cinnamon bark extract. Now, if you're not already using Synachroma, I highly recommend that you give it a try and see how it helps your energy, your weight, and your blood sugar numbers. You can get Synachroma at bartonnutrition.com or on Amazon. If you get it at bartonnutrition.com, you can enter the coupon code webinar25 and you'll save 25% off at bartonnutrition.com. But I realize some people like to go to Amazon as well. So anyways, Synachroma, highly recommend. Now let's get you back to the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar.
All right, final question for the day. And this is our last question. Vila says, will the high blood pressure solution kit help in conjunction with figuring out why my blood pressure is running high?
Wait, I'm sorry. Will what?
Oh, okay. So Vila's the one who's been doing really, really well with the diabetes solution kit, but wondering why his blood pressure is still elevated. Yeah. And so he's wondering if he should purchase the high blood pressure solution kit to help.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, maybe, but start off before you get the blood pressure solution kit. Start off with checking your insulin levels, for example, because if the insulin level is still high, then you're still on the right road, and you don't have to worry about it. And give it time for the insulin to come down to normal. Because sometimes that lags behind your blood sugar being normal. Which is why I usually say at least be 2 weeks of normal blood sugars before you go into phase 2. But yeah, try that first, and then the blood pressure solution kit has a list of these are the tests that you may need to find out why your blood pressure is high. So that would be a great way to go after that.
Dr. Saunders, could you talk about blood pressure medications real quick, and like what's the most common one that doctors prescribe, and what are the side effects, or how does it work?
Okay, so the problem of blood pressure is not the pressure itself. So what we were told in medical school is that the pressure goes up, causing damage to the arteries, because the arteries have so much pressure they can't handle all that pressure, and so they get damaged, and that's where you get atherosclerosis and heart disease and the carotid arteries and the strokes in your brain and all of that stuff happening. That's not the way the system really works. Whatever is causing your blood pressure to be elevated also causes damage to the arteries. So that this is a one symptom of vascular disease or heart disease or cerebrovascular disease if it's in your head. But it's just one symptom. So lowering your blood pressure does not lower your risk of getting a stroke, for example. So it's kind of a misguided thing to put in blood pressure medications onto someone automatically, when instead of using blood pressure medications, they should find out why is the blood pressure elevated. So if you have a kidney problem, fix the kidneys, and then your blood pressure comes down to normal. If you have an adrenal problem, fix the adrenals, and then the blood pressure comes to normal again. So finding out the underlying cause should be the first line of treatment. So what about blood pressure medications and why are they used? Well, most doctors rely on a first line blood pressure medication would be like an ACE inhibitor, and that's angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor. So it blocks the production of this angiotensin converting enzyme, which converts angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, which causes constriction of blood vessels and raises the blood pressure. So it blocks that from happening so that the blood pressure can't come up from this particular cause. So people with like kidney problems will have extra of this angiotensin. But also people who have adrenal problems or excessive stress will also have that. So the blood pressure medication, that particular one, it can protect the kidneys, but it also has side effects of some people are damaged. Some people get kidney damage or seem to have kidney damage from blood pressure medications. And so it's not a simple question because there are so many reasons why somebody can have elevated blood pressure that you can't say that, if you use this, then everybody's going to get this problem. And that's not the way it works, because if that addresses the problem, it's going to fix it. It's going to make it better. But if that doesn't address the problem, it might allow it to get worse because you're not actually addressing the problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I have a friend who has high blood pressure, and he takes arsenochroma, and that's helped him a lot. And then he's also doing our magnesium and the turmeric, and that seems to be helping, but he's also taking a blood pressure medicine at the same time. And so, just kind of interesting, but I think it would be important for him to get tested and figure out like what's causing that. That's the bottom line. So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's not coming down with the simple things like getting the blood sugar normal or getting the stress level down. If all of those things are not working, then you have to go to, okay, then why is this happening?
Yeah, he's a pastor, so that's a high stress occupation.
Nice.
Yeah. And his daughter just had twin babies, and so that might be part of it as well. So
yeah, that could be
all that good stuff. But yeah. All right.
Okay,
well,
guys, this has been good.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
And Dr. Saunders, we will see you next week.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
See you next week.
All right. Take care.
Okay. I have a quick question here from Krish wanting to know what the episode number is for this one. This will be 136. Last week's is not uploaded yet either. I haven't even seen it yet. I'm excited to see it. But I think everything else is uploaded. So if you haven't gone to bartonwebinar.com, you'll find a link to the YouTube channel. And guys, I'm telling you, that is a really good resource that you need to check out if you have not done so, because you are going to find more information. You can just about become a doctor, I'm telling you. Okay, we threw the disclaimer out there earlier. That's not true. You can't. But you get a lot of information. It's really, really good. So make sure you check that out. Anything else from you, Joe?
Yeah, be your own doctor. I think Socrates said that basically. But now the YouTube channel, I think we've got a few more testimonial videos posted now to that. So how does somebody find those? They go to our YouTube channel. Like I think if you just type in Barton Webinar, then we should come up, and then you click on our channel. Yep. Then what?
You'll find some different playlists actually, where you can see testimonials. I almost think we should move some of those over into our list of episodes so they're easier to find as well. But if you go, you can either watch the Barton webinars or you can watch just our testimonials, and you'll hear real, true stories from many of the people that you're seeing on this webinar, where they were before, what happened when they used the diabetes solution kit or supplements. There are quite a few. I know Bill, he's on here today. He has a video up there. The Garcias is coming. If it's not, actually, I think it is up there. I did upload that one yesterday. And so you'll see these stories from these people who are changing their lives, and they're very, very cool. So if you are having a lot of success and you want to share your story, I'd love to hear from you. Please email me, leslie@bartonpublishing.com. I'll post that here in the chat. And it's great to meet all of you. It's pretty easy to just chat and tell your stories. So
yeah, if you're watching this and you have a story, Leslie's a great person to talk with and share that with. She does a great job, and it's a good time, and it's just fun to see the diversity of people in the stories. So it's not, like only a narrow part of, type of person, but there's young and old, all sorts of different, lifestyle situations, ethnicities, countries. So it's just really, really cool, fun to see. And we as a company love to see that as well, just to know that we are making a difference. Like one of our second core value is to help people. And that's what this webinar is really all about, why we started it almost 3 years ago now. And we've been doing it every week. And so we we really do want to help people more. And if you ever have feedback for us, like what could we do to help you more, just let us know. Like send a message in the chat here on Zoom, or send Leslie an email, or call our customer support team, or whatever. So that's what we're all about, is helping you. And yeah, Dr. Saunders is amazing, as you know, and he's just great at answering questions, helping people really get to the root cause, not just putting band-aids on gaping wounds or whatever, but you're getting that true, information that really helps. And then to see the testimonials come in with that is awesome. So the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So, but yeah, check us out on bartonwebinar.com or bartonnutrition.com. And if you decide to purchase any additional products, use the coupon code webinar25 when you check out, and you'll save an extra 25% off. And Fiber Greens is our newest product. You get a free shaker bottle if you order multiple containers of that. And it tastes really good. This is the green apple flavor. It's very satisfying, and it's a good way to boost your fiber intake, which Dr. Saunders has been recommending more so lately. So yes. All right. I'm going to get back to working around here, where we've got a little side project that we've been working on. This is the Arizona Healing House. You can see the backyard is quite amazing. And we're going to have guests coming out here. We're going to put it on Airbnb. We're also going to have health retreats with Dr. Saunders. And if you're interested in that, there is a waiting list right now. We haven't launched it yet, but we're getting close. I finally have some patio furniture that we're sitting on here. More things to come. We've got massage chair, massage table. I just ordered a power plate machine, like that vibration plate, with videos on how to do stuff in there. I've got a relaxation, I don't know what you call it. I call it the pillow room, but it's like where we can all sit around and talk. You can pray, meditate, sleep, whatever, and eat healthy food. And so more details coming probably in the next couple of weeks. We'll be launching this. So we're getting the final cleaning and photography coming, and then it's going to be good to go. So right in time for the heat of summer in Phoenix. But
it's going to be awesome.
Yes. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. Thank you, Leslie. A great job by you, as always.
Thank you, Joe, very much. This is fun. Right. Thank you guys for joining us. We love doing this. So we will see you guys next week, same time, same place.